There were a lot of numbers thrown around last night, and when you hear all of these stats and these figures being used, you might be led to believe that they're based in reality, but they're not. So thankfully, PolitiFact and some of our producers were able to do some Googling and to do a bit of fact-checking of the things that we heard yesterday on the debate. The first, businessman Donald Trump said his net worth is $10 billion, but outside estimates put the figure much lower. By the way, that's outside estimates, and the financial data that he released puts it at much lower. He does not actually make that much money, and I wish that he would stop bragging about his money. Anyway, Ohio Governor John Kasich claimed his state's Medicaid program is growing at one of the lowest rates in the country. Ohio ranks 16th in terms of enrollment growth post-Affordable Care Act among the 30 expansion states and Washington, D.C. So yes, again, it's not expanding at the way that he is saying. Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker claimed his state more than made up for the job losses from the recession. The state has gained 4,000 jobs since the start of the recession.
What?
So I don't know what the more than, was he assuming 250 maybe? 4,000 jobs. Look, that's great for those 4,000 people. That is wonderful for them, but it's not what he led us to believe. By the way, here's one that I want to point out that I think it's not fair necessarily to call it, that he wasn't speaking honestly. Rubio said he had never advocated exceptions for rape or incest to abortion bans, but he co-sponsored a bill in 2013 that contained just such exceptions.
Oh, that goddamn liar.
So that's true, but I mean, that's like saying, oh, if you supported the Affordable Care Act, you don't want single payer. You can want both. You can want more than the thing you're sponsoring, but know that you're only going to get the thing you're sponsoring. So I don't think it's really fair to attack Rubio on that.
I agree. I mean, what's amazing is I don't even know what position he particularly wants to be on. Like, which one do you want?
That's a good point. I don't know.
Do you want to be on the exception for rape and incest side, or do you want to be on the absolutely no exception for rape side? It appears he wants to be on the no exception side.
That's the side he wants to be on now.
That said, we've talked about this before. That's the purer side.
Of course, because if you believe it, you believe it.
If you believe it, yeah. That's right.
You're kind of undercutting your own argument when you say, except if someone's raped, then we can kill that kid.
Right.
If you think it's killing a kid, then you
can't kill it.
It's like saying your dad robbed a bank, we have to put you in jail. Then you can't. So you're right, Ben. That is inconsistent. They're not consistent. Which that's
he
really
is being apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, when you talk about an exception for the health or the longevity of the mother, I mean, aren't you trading one life for another? It seems like that would be immoral too from his point of view. They didn't ask him about that because they're all uncomfortable about the topic. They don't want to have to say that, of course, they don't want exceptions for rape or incest. But to be consistent, I think that they have to say that in case of the mother not surviving the birth, they probably couldn't do it then in that case. But let's see, we've also got, this is a great one. Former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee repeated the old claim that Obamacare robbed Medicare of $700 billion. That's a reduction in the future growth of spending over 10 years, which literally means he's saying like they took $700 billion out of it. Instead, Obamacare means that we won't have to pay $700 million more dollars that costs would have kept rising and accounted for. So literally saving $700 million is a bad thing in his book.
That one goes, some of these are debatable because like you look at Kasich, growing at one of the lowest rates, it's 16th out of 30th, but maybe it's closer in rate to number 1 than number 30.
Maybe. I would say it's dead in the middle.
Right, no, dead in the middle, but that's in a ranking. We don't know what the rate is. The rate might be closer at 16 to 1.
So your point is that some of the claims are debatable, some of them...
This is a lie. This is when you say he took $700 billion, you were merely manipulating certain facts to tell a lie. It is a 100% lie.
In fact, Ben, that very lie was chosen as the 2012 Whopper of the Year.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and then it gets repeated on a debate stage with 3 journalists from the most popular news journal station on cable, and they all let it go right past them. A Whopper, the 2012 Whopper of the Year, doesn't get corrected. But Fox News hasn't been fact-checking for 15 years. Why start now?
Uttered by an alleged, as phony a Christian as there is.
Phony.
What kind of a Christian goes out and tells a deliberate lie that he knows to be a lie? Mike Huckabee is a liar. He is an affront to Jesus.
Mike Huckabee is a incest defender.
That's true too.
Mike Huckabee he's worse than Donald Trump in my, and I've said this for years. That because he's using the Bible as his shield, he's hiding behind it, which makes him a worse person because he's not a real believer. He's a charlatan. I wouldn't buy a used car from fucking Mike Huckabee. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, this claim is literally the same as like if I found out that like, Ben's a nice guy. If Ben paid off my student loans and I was like, you fucking dick. You robbed me of those interest payments that I would have made.
That's right. That's
it's
right.
fucking ridiculous. So that is true. We don't have stats for these, but I was reading.
I would pay it off for you, too.
That would be nice. Thank you.
If I had the money.
So $19 million, I think it was, that Jeb Bush said he cut in taxes.
Yes, 19.
Yeah, a lot of that was federally mandated cuts that didn't have anything to do with him. So he had nothing to do with it. He said that he raised the graduation rate by 50%. The vast majority of that came after he had stopped being governor. During his time, it was 12%, which is still good, but it wasn't the 50% that he said.
Also, there's also other facts that he didn't mention, like when he talked about the rate of growth of the economy in Florida when he was the governor. I pointed out in real time, and other people have pointed it out today, that it was during the housing bubble.
Yeah.
And he left the governorship just as the housing bubble was popping. So, again, these are
Good timing.
Yeah. Also, look up at the first one that we didn't mention Rubio about the small and mid-sized banks. What a giant fraud this guy saying that over 40% of small and mid-sized banks have closed since Dodd-Frank. Hey, it wasn't Dodd-Frank that closed them.
That's true. Yeah.
Right? It was the giant recession caused by George W. Bush. That's what did it. And it's not 40%, it's 16%, and that's a long-term trend that maybe didn't even have anything to do with the recession.
Yeah.
But it's certainly not. I mean, you're just as likely to say, well, 40% of banks have closed since the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah. Or since Chris Christie came into office.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Maybe he's to blame.
Yeah.
It's exactly like that.
So
we also have one of my favorite.
Are we shocked at the level of non-fact checking that happens? I mean, it's in real time.
Thankfully, it's happening, just not by Fox.
Right, it's not happening in real time. They're not going to do a Candy Crowley moment, right?
Yes.
They're not going to go, actually, Governor Huckabee, you're lying. That's the biggest lie that was ever told in 2012. You're repeating it here, and as a journalist, I have to call you out on it. That's never going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Not at these debates,
Ever.
no.
Okay.
We had that one follow-up question. I don't remember what it was about. There was one follow-up question, and that was it.
Okay.
And even then, with the second try, they didn't answer the question, and then they just let it pass.
Okay.
So we also have the claim, I've heard this many times, that we have the smallest Navy since 1917. That is technically true. We have fewer ships, but I think this is bold. I think the ships we have today are better in some ways.
How many nuclear
More
subs did
comfortable,
we have
certainly.
in 1917? I can't remember. Yeah.
Zero of them. It's just, it's ridiculous, but you just say it, and then they're like, wait, it's the smallest, it must be the weakest then. No, it's not the size of the Navy, it's the motion of the ocean or something. That sort of works there.
We don't have any, I looked at the budget for the military, and not one musket.
Not one musket.
Not one musket. So we have the lowest level of muskets since 1916.
Yeah, we can't even muster a musket in this current military.
100% decline in musket production. You can't win a war.
How are you going to beat ISIS?
Yeah,
Right, totally.
And even the Republican candidates wouldn't bring it up. They have no plan to get more muskets in the military. So Trump claimed that illegal immigration wouldn't be discussed right now if not for him entering the race. That was obviously a lie, but they did an analysis of the number of news stories about illegal immigration before and after, and a lot of outlets actually stopped talking as much about illegal immigration to then just talk about him instead. So he was incorrect there as well. Just like front to back, just tons of lies. And we don't have a lot of Kasich fact-checking here. We need to look into that a little bit more. But I'm a little bit worried
Turns out
because
his father wasn't a mailman.
It wasn't?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really. Anyway.
But I've been speaking with some of my friends who don't pay a ton of attention to politics, but they're smart people. They're generally liberals, and they were very impressed with Kasich because he did throw out a lot of numbers that some of them might be sort of accurate, but not entirely. Yeah, and that's just the way that these debates go. Unfortunately.
Is anybody? So here's what I would like to see. I would like to see like a Jon Stewart type person or a Cenk Uygur, kind of get an interview with Chris Wallace or Megyn Kelly or Brett Baer when he's not quarterbacking a high school football team, and just hold up this list of, now here's the list of lies, out and out blatant falsehoods that were told in front of you during a debate. Is it at any point do you think you'll correct anybody ever?
Did you not know that you were being lied to, or were you just too cowardly to point it out?
And in my right hand are the lies that you told. In my left hand is your follow-up questions to those lies. Right.
Yes.
That's good.
Right.
Yes, that's exactly what.
like
Here's
that.
all the lies. Here's your follow-up questions. Nothing.
Yeah.
And so that's really, I think, the sub-story of the debate was how bad Fox
Yeah.
News actually did, and what they. Well, we're going to talk about it later. So because what they were really doing, where they really weren't.
Oh,
there,
yes, we are going to. Yeah.
So I'll
Yeah.
save it.
Really fast. I don't watch, everybody who watches this knows, I don't watch a lot of sports. I don't watch a lot of Sports Center. But on Pardon the Interruption, don't they literally have some like intern guy in a closet doing live fact checking?
Producer,
Yes.
yeah.
For a couple, they're chuckleheads talking about baseball. They have live fact checking on the spot. But what had to have been a multi-million-dollar production to put on this debate, they didn't question one fact.
not
They're
what
below the level of pardon the interruption.
Was not their job, and Pardon the
nor is it
Interruption
in their
a really
interest.
good show. Right. I mean, they don't see it as their job.